Hello, my name is Christiana Adeyemi Adebi. You're welcome to episode 2 of the Creative Sustainability Podcast. I am a communicator and educator in the creative industry space, and as I mentioned in the introductory episode of this series, I started a study on the idea of creative sustainability, which means how can creatives get to sustain and renew all the resources needed for them to stay in creative practice and in business. I talked about the examples of intellectual and financial sustainability as two important factors that are needed for creatives to understand and to employ if they want to be sustainable over time as creatives. So in this episode today, I'm going to be focusing on the first of some factors and resources I'm going to be talking about. And this first one is the intellectual sustainability, the area of intellectual sustainability. As we all know, for you to find yourself in the creative space, that means that you have a mind, you have the intellect, you have the talent, maybe whether inborn, whether learned, there's so much debate over whether talent can be learned or what have you. That's not the scope of our discussion today, right? But how can you be able to sustain, to renew, and to refresh those skills, those talents that come together to form who you are as a creative? Whether you're a graphic designer, whether you're a writer, whether you're a craftsman, whether you are a singer, whether you are into digital technology aspect of creativity. And in this episode, there are 7 focal points I am going to be touching. And I'm sure that by the time you are able to employ these 7 focal points, you would see yourself being very sustainable as a creative in terms of intellect. That means you are not going to be running out of ideas. Your skills are not going to be dull. You are going to be at the top of your game when it comes to delivering what you promise to deliver as a creative. Right, so there are many times that when I started my journey as a writer, I started my journey into the creative space as a creative writer, and there were times when I would get writing gigs and I would be out of ideas, or I wouldn't just know how to put the ideas together. This was long before AI came, right? So there are times when clients would reach out, they want a particular gig. I take it and I am under so much pressure to create something solid, to create something that is out of the world, because I had failed to create a system whereby I can sustain my intellectual capacity to be able to deliver value to my clients or to my audience. And by the time I started studying for a while how one can get to sustain yourself as a creative in terms of intellect, I discovered these 7 points, and it's not just about discovering them now, because there are some of them I started implementing into my personal life that by God's grace has gotten me to where I am now. However, I discovered that being able to conceptualize them really went a long way, so that somehow I can measure, I can track the impact of these tools on my creative journey. So the first thing I'm going to mention, if a creative would achieve intellectual sustainability, is what we call lifelong learning. And lifelong learning is the state of a creative knowing that they are perpetually learning. They are lifelong students. You learn till you die, right? Somebody who stops learning starts dying. That's the popular quote. When you stop learning, you start dying. So as a creative, if you want your intellect, your skills to be at the peak as much as possible, you must be able to understand how you can balance formal education, practice, and even self-learning. Right, we are at an age where knowledge has been so decentralized, but in as much as knowledge is abounding, many people, creatives especially, find it difficult to be able to get themselves into the habit of learning, because many times there is the fallacy or the imagination that because you are talented you can never have a downtime. Talent is never enough. I think this is a very, very popular quote already, and every creative needs to understand that if you want to be sustainable, if you want to be at the top of your game, you don't want any period where for quite a while you need to for you need to step into the shadows because you are not even sure what you can deliver part time. You need to understand the concept of lifelong learning. There are times you need to keep pouring into people, pouring into your audience, and there are times that you need to be poured into. There are times that you need to learn by practice. There are times you need to apply for courses. You might not even apply for the formal courses out there. It could be as simple as Udemy. It could be as simple as, just subscribing for the learning package of somebody in your field who has gone ahead of you and is willing to teach for a certain price. You are paying for their exposure, you are paying for their experience. There is a popular quote that we all experience is the best teacher, but my personal version is that you don't need to learn by your own experience. You can learn from another person's experience. That is the first thing, lifelong learning. The second thing I'm going to mention is information management and knowledge retention. There are many cases where, in the quest for lifelong learning and being able to get as much knowledge as possible, creatives find it hard to retain this knowledge or even manage the information that comes into their way. So it's just like you get to learn a new skill, but you're unable to retain it. You get to learn a new technique, but you're unable to practice it. You get a new insight into something that can better your craft as a creative, but you've been unable to implement it. So if you want to be sustainable, if you want to be able to transcend time, if you want to be able to be timeless, yeah, that's the word. If you want to be able to be timeless, you need to know how to retain knowledge, and knowledge retention is a personal journey. For some people, they retain knowledge by practicing again and again and again. Some people retain knowledge by practicing and teaching other people, right? I got to discover that in as much as I did not see myself as a teacher or somebody that could educate, I got to see over time that when I practiced things and I was able to successfully teach someone, if I am successfully able to explain a concept to someone else and the person can understand, I somehow, should I say magically, discovered that that skill or that body of knowledge became or would become a part of me. And I feel it is a strategy that has kept me here, has kept me in this field, and would keep keeping me. So you might want to implement that as a creative looking to be sustainable intellectually. The third point I'm going to mention is making research an habit. Research needs to be an habit for any creative that is looking to be intellectually sound. You can't even be at the top of your game if you don't know what the people at the top of your game are doing, right? You need to know what the trends are, not because you want to follow the trends necessarily, but you want to maximize the trend of what is going on to your own advantage, right? So I'm going to use the example of being musical artist, right? Let's mention somebody who is in music and you want to be at the top of your game intellectually. You need to research. As a singer or as a musical artist, you should be able to, if not know about all the genres out there in music, you should be able to know the people that are leading in the kind of genre you're choosing, the kind of techniques they go for, what singing techniques are out there that you might need to implement and to better your own craft, to sharpen yourself. You need to research, you need to make it a resolution that if you don't know the latest thing about your industry, you should know at least, or at worst, the second to the latest thing. But many times I feel we just tend to give ourselves allowances when we are trying to make excuses. And this is not me saying you should be hard on yourself. This is me saying that when it comes to things that do not benefit us as individuals, human beings have a tendency to spend so much time there. Why are you procrastinating? Because you are spending time on something. At the end of the day, we are all spending time on something. So why not divert that energy to spending time learning the things that would benefit you as a creative? And this will lead me to the next point, which is skill development and I call it cross discipleship, skill development and cross discipleship. And what this means is that you need to be able to harness the power of skill development in terms of learning about what is going on out there and being able to inculcate it into what you do. A very perfect example just came to mind, and it's the example of the baking industry, right? The cakes and people who are into cakes, baking, and what have you. These guys are so good when it comes to research. There are many times I see someone doing a particular thing, and suddenly I'm seeing so many people recreating that thing in their own personal expressions, and that is where the creativity shines through. There was an era of Milky Donuts where I come from. People just wanted milky donuts. People wanted donuts with so much milk powder or whatever it was slammed all over the donut, and it was quite a thing, right? Somebody started it. I wouldn't know who started it, but many bakers started inculcating that trend into the different kind of small shops that they had, and somehow some of them were even able to make different forms of flavor. So we had the vanilla and milk flavor of donuts, we had the strawberry and milk flavor of donuts, we had the banana and milk flavor of donuts, and people just started improvising different tastes just to appeal, because they were able to research that this is something that was going on. Now clients were tending towards a particular trend in terms of donuts, and they were able to bring it into place, right? So under cross discipleship, I'm also going to okay, let me just go to the next point, which is collaborative learning. All right, and collaborative learning is just what the word implies. I learn from you, you learn from me, we learn from each other, whether it is from colleague to colleague, friend to friend, a mentor to a mentee, or even from a mentee to a mentor. There are many times that mentors have claimed to have learned something or the other in the journey of mentoring their mentees. Collaborative learning would also mean that you need to find a community of people who are like skilled as you are, like minded, like skilled. Also, people that seem to be in the same industry that you are. You need to shun competition, unhealthy competition, especially. Many times competition is not healthy, so I'm just going to leave it at competition. You need to shun competition and embrace collaboration. You are a writer, I am a writer, I write fiction, you write fiction, maybe you write something else. We should be able to exchange ideas on what you think is the in thing in terms of delivering excellence to your intended audience, and it should be vice versa. Everyone should be able to exchange ideas and be able to learn from each other. The sixth point I'll be mentioning, meanwhile, note the most important point is the seventh point for me, and you might be surprised, but let's get there. The next point for me is creative and critical thinking. What makes you a creative is creativity, and creativity slash critical thinking is the ability to put yourself in a situation where you think out of the norm to create something that will become the new norm. I would say that's an that's the definition I formed. Being able to create something out of the norm that would become the new norm. Tentatively, till you create something else that will be another new norm. But creativity and critical thinking in what you do will help you. I think laziness is one thing that threatens the sustainability of creatives from the standpoint of intellectual capabilities, because we are so used to, okay, I want to start a maybe bead making business, I want to start making bead bags, and then we have the common usual sugar bead bags, and everybody wants to stay there. And then somebody decides, okay, let's add some embellishments, and suddenly everybody's going after that kind of embellishment. Why not try to see how you can create another form of embellishment on your bag? The apologies to those who might not really relate to the examples I'm using, and that's why I'm just trying to be here and there. You want to start a ready to wear brand. There was a joke I saw online some time ago where someone said that most Nigerian ready to wear brands now, they only go after certain kind of outfits, and I wouldn't know what the reason is, and this is not me castigating anybody, but there are times when, because you are in a space, you want to set a trend in that space. Funny enough, whatever you create might not be the next blast, it might not be the next big thing, but the truth is that it has created an impact in you. It has helped you to be able to come up with the idea of a certain possibility that might lead to better possibilities as time goes on. And finally, the last important point is rest. Rest, rest and reflect. Rest and reflect. Creatives tend to push themselves to burnout, and burnout will never give you an award for being the most hardworking. And even if I have a belief that if the requirements or the prerequisites for being awarded the most productive or the best creative is that you are constantly burnout, then don't aim to be the best. Just aim to be yourself. Because it gets disheartening when as creatives we want to be at the top of our game, want to push out so many things at once that we forget to rest, right? We all have our opinions, but from personal experience, sleeping 2 hours per day, 3 hours per day, it wouldn't really get you to the best of intellectual capability over time. You need to take enough sleep because again, your mind is what is paying your bills. Your mind is the source of what is paying your bills, and you want to take care of that mind. You want to take care of that brain. You want to ensure that you are not in an unstable state, right? We are going to stick more with this when we talk about emotional and mental sustainability. But you want to ensure that at every point in time, your body is well freshened up because in pidgin they would say na person wey dey alive dey create, and this would mean that it is someone who is alive and well that would have the ability to be a creative. So I think this is a charge to any creative person listening to this. Please rest. Rest. Take enough sleep, take water, try to shun soda as much as you can, try to shun excess sugars, try to keep healthy, stay healthy, because all of these things translate into having a better and more balanced life that would help you to be able to create those massive masterpieces as best as you can. So this is me thanking you for staying to this point. How else do you think that we can sharpen our minds as creatives? We can sharpen our skills, we can sharpen ourselves such that we are sustainable in terms of intellect. I'll look forward to your comments. Don't forget, my name is Christiana Adeyemi Adebiyi. I am a communicator and educator in the creative industries. I'm also privileged to be the founder and director of Artikina Academy, where we teach art, craft, and writing to people who want to migrate from being just hobbyists to being sustainable business and career owners in the creative industry. So thank you for joining. God bless you.